guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm back in an M-lite car. Behind me I have an M135i. This is one of the earlier edition cars, so it'll be quite nice to see how this differs from one of the later ones. This is also a PWG engine, the N55. Some later ones ended up being the EWG, so electronic wastegate, compared to a pneumatic wastegate, so there's going to be a slight difference in the way this thing drives compared to slightly a newer one. So this vid we're going to do the usual go around the car, talk about it, take you on those country lanes, and hopefully wrap up somewhere out there. So this M135i, it's finished off in the Astoria blue. This has got to be one of my favourite colours. I have been out in a Astoria blue M135i when I was kind of starting off my channel, and that also had some tasteful mods to it. Now I'm going to talk to you guys about the mods on this car, but before I do, let's just go through the front end of this car. So this is one of the first M135i's that were produced. It's a 2012 model, so it's a pre-LCI, meaning that it's one of the originals. Now from the front end, I'm glad that the owner has put on these black grills, because it just makes the car just look that little bit more aggressive. Now at the bottom you've got a gas P splitter. Moving around the side of the car, you've got the 436M alloy wheels. So we've got the carbon M style door mirrors. So moving around the rear end of the car, the tail lights, they've got a real nice smoke to them, and it really makes the back end look quite striking. And a very nice tasteful mod is that it's got an M performance exhaust, which makes this car sound quite nice. So we've also got a carbon spoiler on top. So if I open up the boot, as you can see, it's got a K brace in the rear, which hopefully will make this car a little bit more stable. The M-lite cars do suffer with quite a bit of tail happiness, so hopefully this will be quite nice and straight in the corners. So moving on to the interior, we've got black leather, and it's also got the original M Performance steering wheel. The more later ones are a little bit thinner and they're a bit smaller in the way that the airbag has been designed. The best thing about this one is that it's an M135i and it's a manual, so we've got 3 pedals and it's got the short shifter on it, so it's going to be quite nice to drive a manual M135i pre-facelift PWG. So the power plant of the M135i, this is the N55 engine. It's also the PWG engine because it's one of the early M135i's. This has got some tasteful mods to it. It's got a blue spark box fitted to it. It's got a K&N panel filter dropped in, and it's also got a decat. It doesn't sound overly loud. We're going to give it a start up and some revs, and then you can drop a comment in the comment section below to let me know what you think of the sound of this M135i. The M135i, man, it's so good to be back in an M-lite in a hot hatch. I mean, I don't even class this as a hot hatch. I class this as more of a mini GT car, like the way I did when I had my M140i. But the first impressions of being back in one of this is just how everything just wraps around you, and it's quite small compared to, like, say, my M4. And the best thing about this is, even though I've been out in an M140i previously that had a manual gearbox, this has got the short shifter. So when you are rowing the gears, you haven't got the whole kind of long throw. The owner has told me that he's got a clutch stop put in as well. So again, the clutch travel isn't as long as it was in the M140i that had a manual gearbox. And then that engine, it just likes to be revved compared to, like, say, the B58, which has a lot of torque low down. This just loves to be revved. You're constantly chasing that red line, and as well as that, you're always engaged in rowing the gears with this rather than letting the car just, you know, do them for you, even though you got flappy paddles on the autos. And then you've got the MPE as well on this, which has that nice sort of burble sound that flows through, like, the cabin. And then you've got the decats, which again make a nice sound. But the best thing about this whole system is that the resonators are intact, so it's not overly loud. I mean, I went out in that M140i, which was wrench tuned, and it had a full cat back system. Well, actually there was no cats in that, it was all straight pipe. That was just like an Asbo car, whereas this is, well, you can use this more as a daily. We are in sports mode as well, so you know, you got more burbles coming out, but generally speaking, this setup is what I would go for. As I mentioned before, this car's got some tasteful mods to it. Now the top three were the Blue Spark tuning box, the decat, and then you've got the panel filter that's thrown in as well. Now this car would generally be producing in the region of about 320 odd horsepower, being the M55 engine, but with the Blue Spark unit, and I've got plenty of time for Blue Spark because I've got, well, I had one fitted to my M140i and I've got one currently fitted to my 320 diesel as well. It does work. This car is probably producing in the region of about 380 odd horsepower, and you can really feel that because when you are gunning it, it certainly doesn't disappoint. Driving experience in this M135 is up there, and the reason I say that is because you've got the mods that are going on with this car. You've also not only got the engine mods that boost the power, but handling wise you've got the K-brace. The car's also sitting a bit low on H&R springs, which help massively with like the handling of the car, the way it takes these bends in the road. It's fairly flat. I mean, I've driven M135i's and even M140i's, even mine with like lowering kit on it, where, you know, going around the corner and you can still feel like the back end slipping out and not staying in check, whereas with this it gives you a lot of confidence. So usually whenever you are driving a manual BMW, you always feel a little bit twisted behind the wheel, and that's because the pedals are slightly offset. So you got the steering wheel here and your feet are usually pointing that way with like the clutch pedal, but what makes up for that offset is this gear shifter, because it's a short throw. And what I mean by that is the standard one, the gear change is quite sloppy, I find anyway, and it's quite spongy. With this, you've got the clutch stop, which reduces the travel. You've then got the short shifter, which also reduces the travel between the gears, and you just feel more connected driving this type of a setup compared to a BMW without this. So if you are thinking about buying a manual M140i, M135i, even an M3 or an M4 or an M2, definitely make those two alterations. Just a little bit about PWG versus EWG. So PWG, pneumatic wastegate, EWG, electronic wastegate. Now the key differences between the two is that the pneumatic one, like this, doesn't seem to hold the boost very well at the higher RPM, whereas the EWG seems to do that well. When I'm driving this car, and I've had quite a bit of seat time in this, I can't really notice any of that difference, and I've been revving the car out like past like 5,000 RPM onto 6,000. Now the reason for that could be that we've got the blue spark box fitted to the car, which increases the boost anyway. If you are thinking about buying either the EWG or the PWG, do your little bit of homework, you know, in terms of like go on and speak to like say owners and forums and stuff like that, and also try and get behind the wheel of each one and then make up your mind. I mean, I had an M140i which uses a totally different setup in terms of engine, and that does have the EWG on that, but I can't really notice this car losing any boost higher end of the rev range, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm just so, you know, glad to be back in like a M-lite car with a manual gearbox that doesn't feel too sloppy. I don't know. Guys, I'm going to end the vid here. I've certainly enjoyed my time driving this M135i in the way this has been set up. If you have found this video enjoyable and informative, then definitely give it a like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. A huge shout out to Sonny, who's let me take his pride and joy out for a drive and do a vid on it. I will drop Sonny's Instagram in the description of this vid, so definitely check Sonny's Instagram out and more pictures on this car. And hopefully guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.